Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Jessica. It's another episode of our summer book club, and today we're going to be talking about saints, and then some more saints. Now, if you've been following along for the summer book club, a number of us are reading the Handbook for Catholic Moms, and I'll have links down below to everyone else's thoughts on this chapter, so that after you get done watching this episode, you can go and check out them. Now, today we are on chapter 20, entitled Saintly Solutions. And it is one of the very last chapters in this book. We have like a week left to go in this. And as you could probably guess, this is all about the saints. She starts out by telling a story of a relative who happens to be some very distant cousin of hers. You might have heard of her. She's known as Saint Therese of Lisieux, or Saint Therese the Little Flower. And I believe in our one episode in which we did on saintly couples, we pointed out the fact that pretty much everyone in her household was or is in the process of being a saint. In the filming, we joked about how if she had a dog, we'd learn about whether or not all dogs go to heaven. However, then I went and double-checked to make sure she didn't have a dog, and she did have a dog. So I took that out because I'm fairly certain that means the dogs go to heaven. Therefore, if you are of a certain age, that movie that you watched as a kid is totally correct. By which I mean completely not at all correct, because that's not how it works. No matter, how saintly the household is, it doesn't automatically mean that her pets get in. But that is a different topic. Now, if you've watched the Popish Plot for a while, you know that we never ever talk about any saints at all. And we haven't pretty much had an episode about a saint for pretty much every day of the week. For example, you won't be able to go looking through our feed and find things like Saintly Sunday on the saints, or Marian Monday on Mary, or Taco Tuesdays where we introduce various saints such as Saint Stephen when we were talking about the Feast of Stephen, or our newest tiny little saint of Saint Ignatius Nacho of Loyola. And we don't have Wacky Wednesdays where we talk about all the various fun, silly traditions that go around with saints. Or Theology Thursdays when we discuss the theology of, say, how to become a saint. Ding! Or Fermentation Fridays where we discuss things like the saint who was the huntmaster, or as it was known in the local dialect, Jägermeister. Or Saint Bridget, which is mentioned in this book, the Irish Saint Bridget. Only, they did not get into her numerous poems attributed to her, where the main basis is that in heaven there's going to be a lake of beer, and she's going to go and provide drinks for God and the saints. Or, the one time we had a celebratory Saturday in which we talked about St. Patrick, or at least St. Patrick's Day, because although I wrote an episode for St. Patrick, the actual saint, Mike wanted to talk about St. Patrick's Day, so that's what we did. We haven't even had episodes on things like saintly chairs. Because you know that Simon the Rock Johnson needs to have a comfy chair. Even though, much like the real chair of St. Peter, this is one that you can't sit in. So, here at the Popish Plot, we have nothing to say about the saints. Nothing at all. You can't go through and look through pretty much probably a quarter of our episodes and find something about one saint or the other. You can't, for example, learn a bit more about a quote from one of the saints that is referenced in this book. Not from the author herself, but by taking a quote from a well-known writer, in which they discuss the fact that there aren't a lot of saints that are married women, because of course, book for moms, there's like, why aren't there more saints who are wives and mothers? And there are plenty of biblical saints that are wives and mothers, and there are some early saints that are wives and mothers. However, for a long time, there was simply the practical fact that it costs money to become a saint. Not because you're like bribing anyone or anything, but simply, you got to pay for storage of all their documents and goods, and you've got to go and, do a very long, labor-intensive thing to go and to get through all the steps of having someone declared a saint. So by and large, people who were declared saints for much of Catholic history were priests and religious. And so they decide to share a story of not only some saints who happen to be mothers, which included, again, biblical ones like Mary, or early ones like Saint Monica, who you might have heard of because her son has a feast day that I believe is the day after hers and happens to be Saint Augustine. But it then goes into a story of a modern mother who is on the path to sainthood, which we have talked about before because she is well known for slowing down her own efforts to be declared a saint by telling all the people that she knew, don't let them call me a saint, as she knew that people who were named saints were seen as being so otherworldly and great, and I can never do this, and she didn't want to be that. She wanted to be someone who was down on the ground doing things, and that happens to be Dorothy Day, who locally lots of people know all about, or at least some about, because we have a coffee shop, which I have the sticker for here, that was named after her, that is a little place that's run a few days a week, and all the proceeds go to help out Catholic charities. There's a main one that does different things helping out the poor in the community, and every once in a while they'll have one of those days where, you know, X amount of the proceeds goes to this or that other charity. Like, if I got up on Saturday and went, half my money would have gone to a local Catholic school. And so it does get into a person who is in the process of being canonized. I think she's at the point of blessed now. I'm sure if Mike was here he'd know exactly. Who you might not have heard of, who was pretty modern and was American. And maybe someone who we might make an action figure of, because looking at these action figures, I'm like, I need to have some female ones, but I don't want to just do some, you know, this is a random nun, and here's another random nun, you know. Put one in a penguin costume, put one in brown, get one with gray. That covers pretty much all of the, you know, the saintly nuns throughout history. There might be a few other colors. I'm sure some wore white. And of course I have to figure out how to make a very small model of the flying nun hat, because if I was going to have one that was a nun, I'd probably want to have someone from whatever order that was. But anyway, along with giving you very famous saints and some people on the path of sainthood that you might not have heard of yet, this chapter also includes information on saints for different things. Most of whom you've probably heard of. There are a few that you might not have heard of before, and it includes different things that they are the saint of. And then, as always, it ends with homework. The first one is to research the lives of some of your patron saints, such as your name saint, the patron of your parish or diocese, or patron of your job. Now, I actually looked this up because my name is Jessica. It was a name that was invented by William Shakespeare. Most modern people who study this now think that he was totally mishearing and miswriting a common Jewish name at the time, as both the character was a Jew in his play, and there was a name that if you just heard it and then tried writing it down, it could come out as Jessica. However, I'm not named after the fact that, you know, this Jewish name was the name of someone who was like one of those people who was mentioned once in the Bible and you know, like one factoid about. Nor was I really named because my mother thought it was the female version of the name Jesse, who of course was the father of David. But largely it was a very popular name the year I was born. So I looked to see, maybe somewhere there is an actual Saint Jessica. Because it's been a name for a few hundred years. I mean, there could be someone. Turns out that according to some sites, there is a Saint Jessica, in that they believe that Jessica is a variation of the name Joanna, which I have not heard anywhere else based on anyone's theory about where the name came from. And so I think that one's just kind of a bit of stretching it. In my particular parish, happens to have a name that's a title for Jesus, so that one does not work either. Also, a lot of people, like when they're picking their patron saint for confirmation, will be like, who's the saint whose feast day is my birthday? I looked again just to see if maybe I've mislooked all these years. There are a few people who have the same feast day as my birthday. Approximately half the ones that were listed in the religious app I used were named saints after I was born and who you pretty much knew nothing about. Things like, this person was martyred in this time period. So, nothing there. I mean, I still think that I'm in the winning because my sister every year will go and have like this throwdown about who was born on the worst birthday. And for some reason, she still thinks that being born on the same day as a comedian that you don't like is worse than being born at the same day of a person who tried committing genocide. But we will not discuss who has the worst person who is born on their birthday. Because again, my sister wins. I don't care what she says, she wins. I mean, maybe if you were born on Stalin's birthday, it would go and rate higher because he technically killed more people. But besides that, she wins. Other notes are to make notes of feast days for important patron saints in your family and celebrate dinner as a family on these special days. Which is a wonderful idea, and I would do. However, I'm fairly certain if Mike found out that the feast day of my patron saint happens to be in the same general week and a half that him and Nate have birthdays, my birthday would get moved to then. And then there's obtaining a medal, a holy card, or a small statue of your family's most precious patron saint and displaying it in a place in honor. Now, clearly, we need to do this. We need to get more holy cards, and as soon as we figure out who our favorite patron saint is, we'll, be throwing them up there too. Read a biography or an autobiography of one of your favorite saints to learn more about their lives. So, if you have not, from Nacho Tuesday, about 2 weeks ago, picked up the autobiography of St. Ignatius of Loyola, may I suggest that you could do the homework by doing that. I've already had it and read it, but I do have one biography of St. Francis of Assisi in my car that my mom handed me the other day, so that's on my to-read list. And then I suggest spending a few moments each day to read about the life of a saint and share these stories with your children. And then it has a couple web resources for where you can get more information on saints. So, anyway, go down below, look at everyone else's things about patron saints, go click on our actual channel, randomly click on one of our videos. You've got like 1 in 4 chance it'll be about a saint. Maybe it's one you know of. Maybe it's one you don't know of. Maybe it's something where you're like, why in the world do they constantly refer to St. Peter as St. Simon the Rock Johnson? And you can find out why. Go ahead and hit the like button, because Nate will insist that if you've seen it this far into an episode, you must like it. Who spends all their time hate watching shows on the internet? I mean, even if you're just trolling, usually you wait 2 seconds and then you start typing in completely unreal fake things about some conspiracy theory you thought you heard once. So, if you're this far along, hit the like button. Go ahead, if you have not already, hit subscribe and the bell to be notified when we have our future episodes. Again, we are very, very close to the end of this book. We've got like a week left, so you don't want to miss the last 2 exciting adventures of whatever is in the rest of the book. And until next time, remember to live your faith, love your faith, share that love.